Hello, my lovelies, and welcome back to Allotment of the Dead. So today we're going to have a look at two other members of the Solanum family. So that nightshade family that includes the likes of tomatoes, potatoes, your aubergines, and even your chilies. So I've really gone to town on the chilies this year, but I'm going to try and grow some of the other Solanum family ones that I haven't really grown before. I've already got mandrake in the ground and henbane. Still no sign of any life from them as yet, but they can take a few weeks, maybe even months to actually come through. They're down the plot. Again, this cold weather won't do them any harm because they need that kind of cold stratification really to get going. So they're down there, and hopefully by the spring we should get something from them. So today I'm going to be growing two other Solanum members. Both of them have berries, and one of them is the Wonderberry. I've got some seeds here. I've taken the seeds out of this packet, but I've got some seeds here from Nikki's Nurseries, but you can get these from a variety of different places. Nikki's Nurseries always do well. They germinate really well from her company. So again, have a look at some of the wide varieties of different places to get your seeds out there. Maybe a bit cheaper than your garden centres and things like that as well. And there's these sort of things you will never be able to find in a garden centre, or if you do, you'll be very, very lucky. So Wonderberry, also called Solanum Burbankii, also thought to be Solanum retroflexum. So there's a kind of two names for the same thing, two Latin names for the same thing. Also, this particular berry is also called sunberry. So not to be mistaken for sunchoke berry, because I don't think that really exists. Sunchoke is a sunflower derivative, and that's actually a Jerusalem artichoke. But sunberry. So being members of the Solanum family, again, you've got to keep looking at these with a little bit of respect, because there are certain parts of these plants or certain periods of time with these plants where the actual fruit can be toxic. So this particular one, so the Wonderberry, is something that can be mistaken quite easily for the European black nightshade or Solanum nigrum. Also looks a bit similar to deadly nightshade as well. Most of the varieties of this are actually edible, but there are some kind of toxicity issues potentially, with solanine levels potentially being quite high in some of these things. What they always recommend with this particular fruit is that you don't actually harvest anything when it's green. So you wait for the berry to get really dark black before you harvest it. And again, be very careful when you harvest them, because it looks, in a lot of cases, once you've harvested these, a bit like when you harvest mulberry, that you've potentially gone in and murdered somebody. You end up with the juice all over your hands, really quite a sticky juice as well. If you were to eat them green, potentially the symptoms of poisoning would be vomiting, diarrhea, nausea, confusion, a little bit of drowsiness. But luckily, with this particular fruit or plant, poisonings are very rarely fatal. So the berries of these, like I said, they should be harvested when they're black, and they're supposed to taste like a sweet, unripe tomato when they're actually ripe. So they're best used in things like jams, pies, preserves, those sort of things. People always say to me that one of the things they really, really enjoy is actually a Wonderberry pie. So what we'll do then is we'll plant this one. So I've got a nice tray here of Levington F1. I know there's a lot of dialogue and talking about silver grow at the moment, but and people are trying their best to try and find where they can buy it. I've lived by Leventon F1 seed compost probably for the last 6 years. It's done really, really well for me. Really low nutrient, rarely needs sieving. There's not much in the way of extra bits and pieces to this. All right, so what we'll do, there's supposed to be about 25 seeds in here. I'm probably not going to use all of them, but the seeds look a little bit like the seeds you get in a tomato. Really quite fine seeds. So I'm going to actually just spread them out over the top. Of the compost. I'm not going to plant them all. I'll just leave a few for next year, maybe, if I find it difficult to maybe get hold of some. Solanum seeds generally last quite a long time. I've had chili seeds probably for 5-6 years, and they still germinate really well. Okay, so we'll have a little bit of a sprinkling of some more compost over the top. Okay, just to a light covering. So you treat these a little bit like tomatoes, so you're expecting that kind of growth relatively quickly. Being a Solanum, they do grow quite quickly. And then we'll give it a bit of a water, some kind of tepid water. This is just tap water. I do plan on watering most of my seeds, I think, going forward with some rainwater. I've got a few butts down the plot we've got access to. So, okay, so I'll put pictures of all these upon the screens as we go. So the next one that we've got is, again, these are seeds I've probably had for about 4 years or so. I've grown them once. This is Solanum Quitoense. Other name for this one is Naranjilla, or Naranjilla, which means little orange in Central America. Again, Solanum family, grows a really nice, almost like a small cherry tomato size fruit. And again, these are really quite sharp tasting, quite tart. Almost been described as a combination of rhubarb and lime. I tasted them that first year I grew them, and they were quite nice. But again, it's something that there's always been conversation that perhaps these are actually toxic to an extent as well. Although I've eaten quite readily, I was eating them kind of raw down the plot when I grew it. So this plant it's known quite well in Central America because they actually they use the fruit to actually make a juice out of it. So the juice is called lulada, and that lulada is something they drink quite a lot of over there in Central America. So this particular plant is, it only grows to about 2 feet tall or so. Purple hairs and leaves on its leaves and its stems. And out of the 3 varieties of this, one of them has spines a little bit like the aubergine, but lethal. I mean, these are actually, you know when you've been pulling these up. So I've actually had some of these that have gone to seed from one season to another. They've grown even little tiny plants about kind of a few centimeters tall. Has drawn blood when I've actually pulled them out as weeds. So this year I'm going to pot them. I'm not going to basically stick them in the ground. I stuck them in the ground last time, and it would have been a great fence to stop foxes, and to be honest, how sharp these are, probably wolves getting into the plot. But so this year we'll just make a nice couple of potted plants, I think, with these. Right, so again, seeds are a little bit like, these look more like chili seeds than they do tomatoes. They're slightly bigger, almost exactly the same shape really as the chili seeds. And again, we'll disperse them over the top of the compost. Okay. I've not heard of any fatalities regarding this particular fruit, although again there is always a warning when you're growing Solanum plants that potentially there's some toxicity in this plant and in this fruit. Okay, so again, we'll give this a water in. Okay, so these will then go on my Super 7s that I've got in the bedroom with all the chilies on top of them. Excuse me. Okay. I think there's a lot of cold and flu stuff going around at the moment. Hopefully I haven't got any of that. So the fruit for these will be harvested probably midsummer, late summer, and I'll probably make the majority of it into jam. I've got a real jam thing on at the minute in terms of, I mean, you can see behind me, there's all sorts of different lemon jams and habanero chili jams and things, and all these sort of Solanum kind of fruits make really, really good jams because they got a certain amount of tartness to them. So that's what we'll be doing this year. Okay, so one last thing before we leave tonight. So my number of subscribers has just gone up to past the 400 level. So loads and loads of thanks for your interest in my channel. It's really, really got me coming back quite often. As you can see, I've almost probably got 200 videos already, and it's just because I like making them. They always say, if you like doing something, then keep doing it. So anyway, I'll get these up on the propagator now, on the Super 7, and we'll hopefully have some decent plants off these. Anyway, that's all for tonight. So we'll see you on the next video. Take care. All the best. Bye-bye.